We are live. Welcome to my thoughts on Arrow Season 1, Episode 5, Damaged. The episode is rated TV-14, so will this video be? There will be spoilers for the episode and the ones leading up to it. Another episode I love. This show just keeps getting better and better. Before I dive into this one, I do want to rectify. Wow, that sounds painful. I cannot believe I completely forgot to mention in my episode on the episode before this one, in my video. Did I say it right? In my video on the episode before this one. Walter finding, awesome bit with Felicity walking in, making a case for why she shouldn't be fired, assuming she's gonna be. I love the line that she's the most valuable member of that team, including her supervisor. Was it so-called supervisor? Wow. Love that kind of confidence. And we have the awkwardness. I'm the girl. I mean, I wasn't making a pass. I'm gonna leave now. They stopped just short of having her actually accidentally bump into the door on the way out or something. But yeah, he goes. She digs. He goes to the warehouse. We have the classic bit of having to try multiple before getting the password right. And he walks in and sees the shocking sight of the CG parts of the CGI boat that have been visually designed and imposed. It's a little obvious that those are not real parts of a real boat. I do appreciate that would be really, really time consuming, much like eating a clock, to actually build those parts. Most of the time the CG is quite good on the show. Anyway, yeah. Moving on to this episode. So the opening has the bit with Oliver says, they believe I am, this hood vigilante. They also think that I'm trapped. They're only half right. Now, I'm pretty sure that he means that he's going to be able to get out of this situation, because I realize you have to pay close attention, but there are some subtle hints in the first 4 episodes that he is the hood vigilante. But yeah, such a great opening, because the moment we hear that, we're like, how? What is his plan? Really nicely done. And yeah, it was, yeah. I mentioned in my video on the episode that, they got to deal with this thing of, the cops finding out early on. And yeah, in this one, he points out, okay, so I come back and then the vigilante starts showing up, immediately. Someone's going to piece that together. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that he would deal with it early on. And yeah, he points out evidence is technically circumstantial. I looked for I found the hood. You didn't see me put it on. And let's see, the arrest, having him flashback, was also very effectively done. And yeah, he let's see, the various bits of how he, we do very much see, the fact that he's a billionaire means, the court is going to treat him differently. Really appreciate that acknowledgement. You have the thing with, let's see, he talks to his mom and Walter, and says Laurel should be the his defense. And yeah, it is on the one hand, it's further, he feels confident that she feels confident that he is not Arrow. And at the same time, it might be a way for him to even further prove to her, and yeah, just he points out she knows me so well. She knows I couldn't possibly be Arrow. And let's see, yeah, when Laurel talks to, yeah, so Mora goes there, and, she's like, yeah, I know, it's been all over the news, and she gestures towards the TV they have, which I was a little surprised. Not one person in the room turned off the TV. Like, that's, I thought they were going to go for the hat trick. But yeah, Moira, the first thing Laurel asks is, so who is the defense? And yeah, um, it was great when he, because yeah, she does want to make sure he has the best defense. She's just not sure if it should be him or her, rather. And yeah, that when let's see, yeah, the court room itself where he says, he's gonna represent himself. And after some monocle popping, they agree, and then she walks in and she's like, no, because, and the yeah, the thing about, if we're gonna have bail, let's minimize the flight risk. My client has agreed to an ankle bracelet, and Oliver's like, no, I didn't. And she just flat out ignores him, which I feel like there's both simultaneously. That's her, realizing that's going to be, a better situation. Because yeah, this thing of like, let's see, yeah, it's been so long. I can't believe it's been so long since I used to regularly watch court dramas. I believe this is a circumstance where if he did not agree to the ankle bracelet, they would have him in some sort of cell during the trial, because they were talking about bail. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the situation. So that's what she's, making sure he doesn't have to deal with. But at the same time, I think she might also, especially the fact that she doesn't at least like turn to him and say, "Don't worry, this is going to be good for you. This is, this will help." She is a little angry with him still. So let's see. I think that does bring us to the. Yeah, I don't think I'm remembering the scenes in order, but I'll at this point talk about. So yeah, he talks to Dig, and points out, yeah, eventually they were gonna realize, so I should deal with it early on. And the yeah, the thing about yeah, Dig is like, so well, congratulations, you got yourself caught. What's the next step in your master plan? Crushing this plane? I mean, sorry, you dressing up as Hood. And I do also appreciate this thing of like, I swear I didn't mean to put you in harm's way, but I thought just an appearance was going to be enough, but this guy's selling weapons, and the yeah, I mean, Oliver has considered reasoning with him, but like he's just like, don't say that he's hypocritical, say rather that he's apolitical. Once the guns have been sold, where the bullets go, that's not my department. And I really enjoy how, so that was another thing I think I forgot to mention, but this thing of like, yeah, Dig is basically going to be sort of a mentor. This thing of like, you don't know war, I do, and yeah, that is another thing that, there are a number of comics where like the superhero doesn't have a mentor and just like knows the stuff that they need to be able to do in order to carry out vigilantism, which again, by 2012 we were like, come on, man, you gotta have another character in there to yeah. I think, and this is also, so I feel uncomfortable using the exact term, but I will say Yeah, they definitely avoid the magical black person trope. Which, yeah, if you don't already know, let's see. You can't really Google it, but I'm not sure you can Google it based on. Okay, so originally they didn't say black people there. They used not the N word, but a word that is very similar and that today we don't use. I realize some would say, it's okay to use when you're just naming a trope. I'm still uncomfortable with it. I hope I've said enough to make clear what I'm referring to. And one of the big things with that trope is that character only exists to help one or more white people. And that's not really the deal with Dig. He's in part doing this for his dead brother, for his sister-in-law. This is not just about Oliver. In fact, at first, Dig turned him down. So he is a full character. And let's see, I think, and that's again an area where, yeah, as long as you avoid those, as long as you avoid that trope, yeah, a white person learning from a black person, and especially it is a good thing. We need to normalize that, and it's not that oh, this black person was born with like special powers. That's again something that is part of that trope. No, it's he has training. Like it's not like there are a number of black people who have military training. There are a number of white people. There's people of all different ethnicities who have military training. It just so happens that this particular one who has training and is in a position where he could help Oliver is a black person. That is incidental. And that's, again, like in real life, I know this is going to come as a shock for a number of white people. Other ethnicities don't exist for our benefit. They just exist, and we need to treat them as full human beings. Everybody should be treated as a full human being. I think that does bring us to... Let's see. We have the yeah. Yeah. So Oliver, has the ankle bracelet fitted by an incredibly nice cop. I guess maybe he doesn't believe that this is the vigilante, or maybe he sort of agrees with him or something, because he's like, anything else I can do for you, sir? Like, just wow, really nice. And the yeah, I suppose it's, there might be some propaganda going on here, but so far that has not really been like intense on the show. So let's see. I think the yeah, so Oliver, is like, let's have a party. And I love that even Tommy's like, how about we not and say we did? Like, are you sure, man? Because like, again, he is like he's a character that so easily could just be like, oh, that trope, that character type, But no, he is like an actual person, because you might expect he'd be like, yeah, a party, woo, bring on the solo cups. Well, I guess solo cops could join as well if they want to party. But the you know what they say? Ain't no party like a police party, because a police party don't stop. Because you can't call the police. It's been a while since I watched The Office. Okay, no way. I did not forget his name. Holy crap. Okay, I know his last name is Hofstetter. Wow. If my wrists weren't so busted, I'd look it up. I think it's Steve Hofstetter. But suddenly I just cannot remember. Anyway, that's his joke. The police party can't call the cops. Anyway, I try to only reference jokes from people who are significantly more well known than myself. His like long shows are fantastic. I think Secret Optimist is my favorite. Anyway, yeah. So the yeah. And Tommy does have a point. And the others, I also quite like how, Moira's like, as your mother and owner of the estate, I think maybe you should run that by me before just setting out to, yeah. But yeah, and the prison theme, which yeah they live up to, people dressed as cops. There's a deleted scene where conventionally attractive female, partier who goes as a cop, like puts one of those playful handcuffs on Tommy. Let's see. There's also a deleted scene where Dig. Let's see. He places the tracker that we get the results of, and is again one of those things. It's a pretty good scene. There's some good tension, like the Mueller really stares him down. Let's see. I think the yeah, launching an investigation, I guess. But yeah, it's one of those things. Ultimately, you don't really need to see it because, like, of course, Dig can get a tracker on a car. That's not something we need. It's not like he had to go to space or something. Like, okay, maybe fill-ins. We need some connective tissue there, but but right for those who don't have the Blu-ray, it's pretty cool. He purposefully, not like super hard, but he drives his car into Mueller's, and then like pretends like he like sort of bends down briefly, and places the tracker, and then apologizes, says I'll pay for the damages. I can't get fired. And seems like really apologetic, so that they'll lower their guard and not think that he's trying to do something. I think that does bring us to the let's see. I know there's at least one more thing that I wanted to get to. Right, so the party, yeah, cops and some of them are in like that orange, the orange jumpsuit from prison, and some of them have the classic white and black, like old timey convict kind of thing. Yeah. I think that might just about bring us to. So the polygraph, very clever, and I appreciate. It's one of those things, ultimately, that Detective Lance didn't, he still doesn't accept at that point in the episode. He seems to accept later, the Hood sighting, but it's one of those things that's, again, you got to be careful with. So seemingly what the scene was about was convincing Detective, but by the end of the scene, he's not convinced. But it is also, it allows Oliver to apologize and say that he does blame himself to Detective for Sarah's death, which is important for both characters. Later in the episode, Detective realizes, he's like, I was obsessed, and it tore apart my family. Not as much as Graham Linehan, but I mean, that's a pretty extreme case. And to be clear, Detective does have more of a reason to be obsessed. Like Graham Linehan. Holy crap, dude! Like what? I don't know if I reference him too much. It's unreal to me that guy actually did. Yeah. You know what? It is a good time for me to name drop. Bridget Empire has done several really excellent videos talking about Graham Linehan. And, he's been mentioned by others. Katie Montgomery and Jesse Gender have also mentioned him. Anyway, I think... And I talked about what's, messed up about the whole, what he did. I think that does... Oh, and so has Essence of Thought. She might be one of the best at covering him, in fact. In general, her videos are excellent. So are the others. I think I am going to move on to the... so, other than that, we do also have the fact that, by the end of the episode, that's another. There's a deleted scene where Detective Lance is in the bar, checking the polygraph, and Laurel comes in, sees it, notices something, and picks it up without him noticing, and that's what leads into confronting. But yeah, so she confronts, confronts Oliver, and we have the thing about she points out we went you have technically been to that prison when you were younger, and he's like, I didn't get you. Oh, you mean the field trip. And yeah, so she knows that he lied about at least some things there, or at least one thing. Possible he lied about others, and that is also one of those things. There are people who can fool polygraphs, and I believe it's been so long since I heard about it, but I believe polygraphs have basically been disproven completely at this point. Like, it's just, I think Adam Ruins Everything did a video on it forever ago, although I don't know if he's still credible because of the shilling he did not too long ago. Yeah. From what I recall, what he said about polygraphs held up to scrutiny. I think that does bring us to, yeah. So at one point she's with Oliver. I like the thing about when did she last see his room, and he remembers distinctly. But yeah, she talks to him about she wants him to know she doesn't care about the scars. Do I need, you know what, maybe I think I'm gonna self-impose. I am referencing Dark Knight Trilogy way too much in this video. I think I'm gonna stop that. They're both DC. Anyway, but yeah, she talks about the scars, that she should see them, pointing out, Oliver, I have carefully examined every single piece of evidence, and there is a very clear pattern. You have to take your shirt off at least once per episode. I'm not complaining, and I don't think her reaction is unwarranted for any, I think there is a sizable chunk of the straight or non-sapphic female population and non-straight male population who would have that exact reaction, prior relationship or no. Let's see, and we do also have the thing about she points out we cannot get back together, and he's like, I know, you're right. He wasn't smiling when he said that. I just can't stop smiling because, yeah. Anyway, I think that does bring us to. So really cool. When Dig there's the hood taking out, and not using a bow and arrow, and I do appreciate that, because that is also, listen, I try not to bring it up too often. I try to only bring it up when it's relevant. And to be clear, I'm not saying I ever got like good at it or anything, but when I was 12-ish, like thereabouts, my father taught me how to fire a bow and arrow. And, yeah, the first time you pick it up, you're not going to hit what you're aiming for. And, if he's going to try to do that in the middle of, like, combat, that's also part of what makes Arrow so impressive, that he can do this, like, whilst also fighting people hand to hand. That's, yeah. So I really appreciate that they acknowledge that that would have been pretty silly if he was, but yeah, there was a sighting, and like, I don't blame anyone who cited him for not noting, doesn't he usually use a bow and arrow? Because like, when you're getting punched in the face and such, you maybe don't care too much about that. Let's see. I do want to acknowledge, so, let's see. The first gang that he sells to are black people. I think the second, I'm not sure I feel like I got a good enough look at No, no, wait, yeah, sorry. Thinking closely about it. Yeah, the other gang was an East Asian gang. Um, and that is another issue where you could easily end up in like a pitfall. It does not, to me, obviously, I don't have final say on it, being, you know, pale as a sheet myself, but to me, it did not feel like an example of the show like being racist, which so far the show hasn't been, in my opinion. Again, not final say, because all the other people he's fought, was it all? I think at the very least a bunch of the other people he's fought were white, and he's so far mostly fought like powerful white guys, and Mueller is also white, and yeah, you know, the yeah, I think that does go. Oh, also, part of it is also they didn't have like ridiculous, exaggerated stuff. It's just, yeah, the gang members happen to not be white, you know. The show continues to have a focus on, the real source of, the biggest source of harm in the world are powerful people. And I'm not saying all of them are white, but they do tend to be members of the majority in whatever country they're operating. They are much rarer. The most harmful ones, again, tend not to be immigrants or otherwise minorities. Um, and yeah, they make clear, like, Oliver didn't say, we have to stop these gangs. He said, we have to stop this white guy from arming these gangs with military hardware. So, yeah. I think that might be about, yeah. And really cool. And I was slightly unsure if he really was going to be able to take Mueller out, because I was like, there's not that much episode left. But, yeah, it ends up being a short scene of him, but very cool. And I like the bit where he fired, like, I guess it was like 2 arrows at once, and it's like, yeah, holding the guy up by the neck there, so yeah, really nicely done. That was also a thing. So in the episode before this one, I am aware one has to be very sensitive when invoking the image of a woman with someone like putting their hands around her neck, choking her. And again, not the final say, but to me it felt justified, because it leads directly into Oliver almost killing the guy. Laurel has to stop him from it, and it would feel, if Oliver hadn't perceived this guy as an actual threat to Laurel's life, which he was, would he really start, almost killing the guy? I just don't buy that based on his characterization up to this point. He's not just some out of control killer. He is willing to kill if he feels he has to. And right there, he felt like that was the only way, because this guy already got, when he had the jump on Oliver, he knocked him down, so yeah, Oliver thinks this is necessary. Also, afterwards, he didn't seem like he had like lost control so much as it was a tactical decision. Let's see. Maybe a little bit, like, it took him like a second or something to get back, to calm back down or something, but he didn't seem like super out of control or something. I think that does pretty well get us to, right, I like the scenes with Thea, talking, and this thing of like, she's scared she's going to lose her brother again. And he manages to convince her he's not Arrow. And I think that does more or less cover, yeah, great stuff between Moira and Walter. And, voiceover of Dig saying, once you start lying to your loved ones, and then we see, Walter, he's claiming it's a business trip, and he's not sure when he'll be back. There's a rift there now, and he confronted her, pointing out, I know you lied to me, and yeah, not the driver, the chief of security ended up, in a car accident, which sounds like it was murder. Although I guess it's possible that he just got so distracted by thinking like, wait, okay, so my boss said that he didn't call me into a meeting, but he did, and the meeting isn't really taking place, and it's just, but the, let's see, I think that does... Yeah, Walter does a lot of calling people into his meeting. There, in this episode, it's Josiah and then Moira, and the episode before it was... Smokely, I think her name. The IT woman. Anyway, I think that does. Yeah, I think that might be everything I have about this episode. Psych. Obviously, we're gonna talk about those flashbacks some more. So, okay, yeah, let's get some stuff out of the way first. Really cool, the thing about, that was also, yeah, the episode acknowledges, yeah, you need training because Oliver can't hit, and the thing about he has to pick up the bloody, disgusting dead animal, and yeah, he gets caught by, and we find out, a little bit more about the guys on the island, and yeah, it's really, yeah, we have some more great stunt work when he's being thrown into the pit, head first, like, yikes, ouch, that is, yeah, and the, that was also great, later when he is, yeah, right now, yeah, when he's talking about it, to Detective Lance and later Laurel, really compelling stuff, but also the let's see, we have the, what was the other thing? Yeah, so, he's dragged out of there and shoved into the tent. And, the guy sitting there, he's, behind the table, he's like, stay. And he pours, like a soda, and, clearly the implication is, don't you want something to drink? You probably not had any, you've maybe had nothing to drink, or only, like, water from the what's that called? Island water? I don't know. I guess it's not quite sea water. Shore water? I'm pretty sure water. But the, yeah, and when Oliver does not, he gives his name, rank, and serial number. Okay, he gives his name, and he lies to cover for, the other guy, which, yeah, like, that's not nothing. Like, he is genuinely, yeah, and the other guy does appreciate it. He is like, stronger than I thought. Maybe you really can survive. Let's see, and yeah, he tells him, breathing is everything, and then, Oliver misses with the arrow. He just forgot to breathe. And I think that does, but yeah, so he lies, and the other guy's like, you're not a very good liar, which is great because that comes in the flashback before we see him take the polygraph, but after he said that he would, and it was like pointed out that might not be a good idea. Also quite like the, Laurel pointing out, polygraphs are not, they're inadmissible, so, and I believe that is, yeah, in 2012, I think that was the case, or is it just for specific cases? I forget. But yeah, and then he explains, the name of the island is Purgatory, but I can make it hell for you. And, that is definitely that, he's like, he's all yours, and then in walks frickin' Deathstroke, and it's like, yeah, even before he started cutting Ollie, I was like, yeah, if anybody can make your existence hell, it's freaking Deathstroke. Holy crap. And just, yeah, so cool. And yeah, they're right. And the thing about, I offer you a chance to think about that when you're begging for death. Like, holy crap. And the right, also when he's trying to climb up and he puts his fingers on and one of them like knocks on the finger. Oh, I felt that. That's like, oh, because we know what, like, we've all at some point or another felt pain in at least one finger. It's like, ugh. But yeah, and after a while he's like, maybe Oliver doesn't know anything. Okay. He's not like, oh, ugh, sorry about that. But yeah. And let's see, we have the yeah, it was so freaking cool. So yeah, he's tied up, and then in comes the I hope they say his name soon so I don't have to keep calling him, because now it's starting to feel disrespectful to, but the island mentor. um yeah, he comes in, fires an arrow to free Ollie, and we have so far the show's longest fight that didn't include Oliver. So that was really cool. And yeah, not surprised that the two of them are, we have another, it's again essentially evenly matched, but yeah, that was really cool. And that is also, once you have Deathstroke, you got to give him a fight scene. Like, there's you know, there are lawyer characters on the show. I'm sure they had like an actual legal, what's the word? Like someone they could get information, consultant, legal consultant on the show to make sure the court stuff was accurate. The moment that they mentioned, oh, we're going to put Deathstroke in an episode, I'm sure the first things out of that legal consultant's mouth was, you're going to have to give him a fight scene. You could go to jail if you don't. And it did not disappoint. Like, holy crap. Ugh, yeah. I think I may have already mentioned, but yeah, Deathstroke, one of my favorite. He's such a freaking cool character. Just, yeah. I love these comic book characters who are just incredible tacticians and, like, good at fighting and this whole thing. Like, just, yeah. I think that's what I will say about that for now. So yeah, really looking forward to the next episode. Yeah. Right. So yeah, during the polygraph test scene, yeah, they one question where we at first weren't sure if he was going to tell the truth. He does say more than that. That was also a really great, yeah, he tells some more about what happened on the island, the torture and such. And that was, so far he's been playing this as close to the chest as his scars are. And yeah, that was a strong character moment that he tells, and a good bit of like plot wise, because it changes things. Now, like, Laurel, she still she has some issues with him, but she is becoming more and more aware. It really was hell for him. But yeah, one question that it wasn't entirely clear if he's going to lie or not, but he ends up saying yes, is, were you the equivalent of Rambo during one of these torture scenes?